Andrew Houston here with another No Bullshit podcast for contractors. Super pumped about my guest today, Nick Black. We're going to get into not just how do you build an A team, but we're going to give you specific strategies on your ads, exactly what you got to put in the title to get people attracted to applying to your contracting company to build your A team. And we're going to get into a lot more about how to know your numbers and everything to do with scaling your contracting business beyond where you're at today. So that's it. Andrew Houston from Profit for Contractors with another No Bullshit podcast for you guys. And I'll see you on the flip side.
Until right now, this very moment, contractors have always been on their own, not as tradespeople, but being alone and knowing how to take their business to the next level. They call us working class. They call us blue collar. They say that we don't have the smarts to become the business owner that we're meant to be. That is such bullshit. You have the ability. You're more than any of that. The question really is, where do you get the insights that you need specific to contracting to systemize your business so you can get your profits to pay for your freedom? I'm Andrew Houston. I'm going to show you how to make more profits, how to get more control, how to get more freedom in the simplest, quickest way possible without any of that bullshit. Welcome to the No Bullshit podcast for contractors. Listen up, level up, and if you learn something, like the video, subscribe to the channel, change your business, change your life.
All right, rock stars, welcome to another No Bullshit podcast for contractors. I am here with my man, Nick Black, and we're going to talk about his journey. He's going to talk about a journey that I think everybody can relate to, from struggling, trying to make payroll to now, making his business into something that's profitable. It's more systematized. Doesn't mean it's the end of the road. We've still got lots of things to work on. So Nick, welcome, man.
Hi, thanks. Thanks for bringing me on board.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You've made tremendous progress in a lot of areas of your business. And, I always stress this to all the listeners. It's not the end. And we're going to talk about, come to the close of this podcast, we'll talk about some of the things that you're working on and some things you want to achieve and where you're headed as far as your vision and what have you. But let's get into this. Tell us, first of all, tell the audience a little bit about your business. Like, what do you guys do?
Yeah, so our company is called Cavetto Carpentry. As I kind of said yesterday on a Facebook thing, was my name's a bit too boring to be a business name. So went with the Cavetto, and the clients love it. So we're running a small renovation and finished carpentry business.
Cool.
And so small renos. We're getting into some nice custom kitchens, working on a relationship with a kitchen designer or cabinet company that we're going to really leverage.
Wonderful.
That's going to really be nice because they're essentially pre-qualifying clients for us, recommending us to be the GC, and then we just show up and rock it. So
I love it. For all those listeners getting into, tactics here, we usually talk about tactics a little bit later on, but whatever. So this is the No Bullshit podcast. For those that just heard what Nick was just saying, I want to make sure you guys catch this. One of the best strategies for generating leads is to build a sales force that's not on your payroll. And that is called strategic alliances. And that's what Nick is talking about, is, dealing with somebody else whose target audience is your same target audience. And, with the two of you working together strategically, you can provide a better service to the end client. And everybody wins, right? But again, it's not like they're on your payroll or anything like that. And they're doing a lot of the filtering of your leads and things of that nature, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yeah, it's huge.
It kind of gets us to that next tier of client that we want to be working with. Mm-hmm. They're, pretty swank high-end kitchens. And also opens us up to the future of saying, oh, you guys do kitchens. We also want to do this part of our house. Can you do that? And we can say, hells yeah, we do. And then we can start. It just gets our foot in the door with these clientele that I'm really wanting us to be working with. So yeah, beautiful. It's pretty exciting.
It's a bit of, just wrapping this up, it's what I call trust transference. What is trust transference? It's somebody that's already got a relationship with somebody else, and they're transferring some of that trust into you. And, that's so invaluable, right? It's a great way to scale your business, right? Because as they grow, you're going to grow. Everybody's going to grow.
Yep.
Cool. And it doesn't cost you a bloody cent.
No, it makes us money.
There you go. All right. So let's talk a little bit about, again, for all those listeners, I always try to state this at an early stage in the podcast, whether or not you should be listening or, to this, continue listening to it or get the hell off the podcast. This podcast is for contractors that really want to change their business, that really want to, go from just being a tradesperson on the tools to actually being a business owner. We call them champion CEOs that we're trying to, evolve to. Champion CEO of your life, champion CEO of your business. So if you're not a contractor, or even if you are a contractor and you're not interested in growing your business, this is definitely the wrong freaking place for you. Okay. If you're looking for some fluff and some like candy coated magic wand things, this is definitely the wrong place as well. Right, Nick?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about some of the struggles that you had. So, and then we're going to get into what were the specific strategies that actually helped you get to where you're at and going to help you get to where you're going. What were, you talked about that you almost didn't make it. You talked about, that if you hadn't got the insights that you've gotten in the last while, that, the business would be no longer. Tell us about how bad it was, man.
That was the hardest thing I've had to deal with in my life, emotionally, mentally, for my family, everything. So what happened is we were a COVID business, so we're pretty young, just coming into year 3 here, and it started out pretty good. We were doing great. Hired accountants and things right off the get-go, but they were the wrong accountants, and we kind of got to a point where I grew a bit. I brought on some more people, but I didn't have any of the enough knowledge of how to do that and account for myself, stepping back, making sure I can still be paid. The additional overhead,
knowing your numbers, man, right?
Rules, numbers, none of that stuff. I thought I did because my accountants were telling me, oh, you're doing great. You're hitting 60, 70% gross profit. I'm thinking, oh man, that's amazing. And then all of a sudden it was November, this last November. All of a sudden I went, wait a minute, like company cards maxed. I have no money in the bank. What just happened? It was like I blinked and all of a sudden we were totally screwed. And so I did a bunch of research. I built my own job costing sheet, really similar to the PFC one. After reading a bunch of books and doing a bunch of research and trying to figure out like what the hell is going on. And then I talked to Max Shepard, who's a PFC member here. He's here in Victoria, and talked to him about struggles, and he had some struggles, and he mentioned coaching. And so I reached out to you guys, and here we are. But yeah, we got to a point where, like we had nothing left, and I was just like in total panic mode. And it was pretty much over Christmas break, and no one was working, that I was just like, what are we going to do here? Like having maybe a couple $100, like
that's pretty hard.
Like, unbelievably bad, really, like huge debt. Even over the next few months with PFC, I've had to take out some little loans and things, like pretty much whatever the banks would give me to make sure I can freaking limp it along, because I have a vision and I know it'll work. And PFC is the big reason for that. Seeing all these guys that have turned their business around, in a year and can do it. And I've always had this mindset of like, well, if those guys are doing it, obviously it's doable. All these other contractors
great mindset because
are doing it. So why can't I? There's no reason. So right. I know that I'm onto something, and the vision I have for this company and my team, like I have an amazing team, and they really believe in me for whatever reason and what we're doing. And they've all stuck around, and I've been very open too with the whole team about, the shitstorm that we were in. And, but yeah, managed to pretty much join up PFC. I consumed the blueprint super fast because I had no choice. I had to do something dramatically different. Otherwise it was game over, wrap it up, lay everybody off, and sit on a pile of debt and figure out how to do that. Nice thing is, like, as a carpenter, and like, not toot my own horn, but like a pretty decent carpenter, there's obviously a labor shortage. So I knew that even if I did do that, I could walk into a job. I've got, other companies that I've worked with that are great. But I said, no, like I want this business to work. So joined up PFC, and
you followed the recipe, right?
Just followed the recipe, just started going through stuff, making changes
in the right order. in the right sequence. Like, so for those of those listening in, they're like, what blueprint? What the fuck are you talking about? What's a blueprint? Okay. So,
you know, I mean, it's a great tool that you guys put together, and it just lays out the basics. It's like, here's your baseline, base knowledge, consume that, go through, here's your numbers. That's your first most important thing. Without that, you're hooped. And then it goes through sales, it goes through organizing, goes through admin stuff, hiring, all that kind of stuff. So
it worked, right? So here you are now, you know. So let's just nip one thing that you highlighted, or cover off a couple of things. One of the tactics, everybody listening in, you might have heard this before. If you listen to this podcast, you definitely have, which is you need to know your numbers. Okay. Yeah. And knowing your numbers, guys, is a responsibility to be an owner of a contracting business. Okay. I'm not going to bullshit you, because it's just not going to help you. If you can't find yourself to have an interest in the numbers, to learn them, maybe you already have an interest, but you've got to eventually get an interest in the numbers. Okay. It's almost like you have to become a little bit obsessed with knowing your numbers. And if you're not willing to do that, you're not going to like what I'm going to tell you. What am I going to tell them, Nick?
Then you're done. If you don't know your numbers, that's it. That's
right. And if you're not willing to learn your numbers, then Nick, what would you tell the people? Like, if somebody's listening and going like, you know what? I don't fucking need to know my numbers. I'll just get my accountant to do it. Like, Nick, what would you tell them?
Then you're in trouble.
You are in trouble.
Why run a business, pretty much? Like, if you're not willing to do that work and know the ins and outs, then you shouldn't be doing it.
Totally.
You're better off being a right-hand guy to a company, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Totally. Not everyone needs to be running a company, right? There's a lot of guys that are my PM. Like, he totally could be running a business, but he says straight up, he's like, I don't want that part of it. I don't want to carry that burden.
Right.
You know, and
got it.
It's totally fine, you know?
So know your numbers, guys. Okay. And you know, whether it's through Profit Contractors or some other means, you've got to know your numbers. And that means that means not putting it on to somebody else and you fluffing off the responsibility. You need to know your numbers. You need to know, you know, how you're going to price jobs profitably. You need to know how to manage your cash flow. You need to know, you know, how to set budgets and how to set targets and go after those things. And by the way, you're listening to this and you're like, fuck, I do want to learn this, Andrew, but you just overwhelm me. Well, let me underwhelm you. Okay. It's one little step at a time. Okay. And Nick, it doesn't take freaking 2 years to learn your numbers, does it?
No. I mean, like I said, I dug into it over Christmas break, you know, and
there you go.
Got a really good, wrap my head around it really well. And then, you know, Leroy and his team helped a lot too, but I mean, really it's, give yourself a bit of time. Like, you can figure it out real quick if you're in okay shape or not.
That's right. Totally. And you know what? Here's the thing. As a tradesperson, I'm going to tell you right now, you have the ability. Okay. You have it's, you know, acumen, or you have the IQ to learn the stuff. This isn't like doing some form of integrals and derivatives and fucking trig and all the rest of this kind of stuff. This is basic math, and you just need to learn it in an orderly way. So first tactic, strategy, everybody listening in, no bullshit. You got to know your numbers. You can learn your numbers, but you got to want to learn your numbers. And if you don't want to, then you really need to seriously consider whether or not you should be in business or not. So there you go. There's one no bullshit point, right, Nick?
Yeah.
Okay. It's changed Nick's business. It's allowed him to make better decisions, which move us into some other topics for today, like being able to know whether or not you can afford to hire somebody, right? So let's talk a little bit about your team, building your team. I know you made some decisions. You had said that some of the decisions you had made in hiring people, you hired the wrong people. And in some cases, it had a major, major negative impact on you. Tell us a little bit about that scenario and how it impacted you, your business, your time, even, you know, time with the family and what have you. And then let's talk about some of the tactics of how we started building this A-team. Sound like a plan?
Sure. Yeah. So I laid off one guy pretty early on. but that one was all good. That one was pretty good. It was kind of within our structure of our kind of trial period.
Yeah.
It was just more of a personality thing. And that was kind of a, fire quick kind of situation. But we had another guy that we had on as a lead carpenter. He had a ton of experience, and he told us, he said, I'm in it for a year and then I'm getting out of the trades. He's doing a whole other thing. And I was thinking, great, I can totally take advantage of your 20-some years of knowledge for a year to help build our team. I can work with that. And brought him on, and pretty much every project that he touched had issues that we had callbacks and had things to go fix or issues with the clients. My problem is I'm the optimist. I'm always trying to give people the benefit of the doubt. So I said, okay, well, maybe you being on the tools carpenter isn't the best spot. Let's try you as more of as a PM kind of guy, get you off the tools, utilize your knowledge still for setting jobs up and things. So try that out. Still didn't really work. He wasn't a big thing for me. Is like, we are, in front of the people in the States. In Canada, we have this apprenticeship program for trades, which is amazing. I'm not quite sure why you guys down south don't do that. But anyway, so the whole thing is we need to teach and pass on our knowledge to our apprentices. So when they go through their education training, they're set up to succeed. So he wasn't doing that either. I started hearing, I was getting two versions of him, which was hard. Talking to me sounded great. Things are good. He lined things up. And then I started hearing stuff from like my crew being like, yeah, like he wasn't really here today, or he just would say, yeah, just do it. Don't ask questions. Whereas my team are really good and onto it. The rest of my team are total A's. And they were saying like, well, what about this detail? What about that? He would just blow it off. And then I would come in being like, hey, what about this detail and this detail? And they'd all be like, yeah, we all brought that up. And he said, don't worry about it. Anyways, it turned into a disaster. Had to let him go. That didn't go very well.
What was the like, when you talk about the impact? I just want everybody to get clear on something here.
Thousands of dollars, thousands and thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
Just because of not setting things up, missing things, details.
Mm-hmm.
When he was on the tools, like I said, there's
the impact on your A team too, right?
Oh, there's that, right? There's the negativity there. People started saying like, we don't want to work with them. It was just turning into a huge issue. And then my project manager now, Jason, that we've got, who's amazing. Don't really understand how we were even operating without him before. In the first week, I think week or two, he was here. He had a meeting with me, and he's a no bullshit guy. He came in, he said, this guy's an issue and probably needs to not be here, kind of thing. And he even brought it up before you even mentioned it. I was like, you want to talk about this issue, don't you? So, right. And yeah, and it was just like, yeah, that was it. Next day, but the impact, the ripple effect is huge. We just finished the last job, kind of pre-PSC stuff that was a real painful nightmare of a job for a whole slew of reasons, so we're now at a point that we can really start moving forward. Everything's lined up better now, but yeah, the ripple effect is huge when you have people. So
if you got somebody listening and they got someone that is similar in some form or nature as the person that you just described, what would your advice be to them?
You need to really have a structure for your whole team that makes them feel comfortable to talk to you. Right. A couple of my guys kind of after the fact of all that, that was one thing they mentioned. And I thought myself, I'm a super open guy. I'm really approachable and everything. But they said, we didn't know what the structure was for chain of command. Even though we're a super small company, my team was saying, they were saying we need that structure. And they said they didn't want to go around him. They didn't know how that would be and all this and that. Right. So that was a real eye opener for me. So I think the advice is make sure your team, and you have check-ins with your team to say, hey, how's it going working under this guy? You got to really know. Right. Because, it doesn't matter if he's crazy experienced and he's the best at all this, but if it's hurting your team, right, what are you going to do? You're going to hold on to one guy, or you're going to hold on to your 5-man crew, right?
Yep.
Obviously, you're going to hold on to your 5-man crew.
Absolutely.
And if you're hearing all those negative things from different people, you obviously got to listen to that. So, it's something I should have cut that out a while ago, right? But the team wasn't comfortable yet to really talk about it and bring it up to me. So you got to really make sure that you set that up, that they're comfortable to talk to you about that stuff. If there's an issue with someone, that they can bring it up in a professional way. Right? You don't want to be like, oh, don't be a tattletale or anything. Like, you got to really be professional about it and just say, hey guys, like, in your professional opinion, how's this going?
So do you have a regular cadence whereby you schedule time to talk with the guys to see how they're making out with the management above them? Like, is it on a regular basis?
We're moving into that. Like, we have more of a structure now that we're starting of having more check-ins and reviews, things like that. We didn't have any of that before because we were so small. I think that's an issue with a lot of small companies like ours. They think, it's too bureaucratic, but you just need it. You need to have that structure. So we are doing that now more, and I'm trying to really talk to my team more about it. Like, we just hired on a new lead carpenter, and he seems really great, but I want to make sure that I'm talking to everybody, saying, like, is it working? Does he actually know what he's doing? Does he jive with the crew? All that.
Right. It's interesting. I can't stress this enough, guys, that you need to have structure around when you hire somebody, all the way from hiring them. And I'm talking about even before they put their feet hit the ground. You got to have a structure for how you hire them, to filter them out, to set the right expectations right in the hiring process. Then, the next phase of this, and again, you guys might want to write this down. So it's like, that's the pre-hire. Then there's the actual, the hiring, where we want to onboard these people. And we want to make sure that we onboard them for success. And, like you're saying, you've got to make sure that the communication just doesn't go from top down. It's got to go from bottom up as well, right? And left to right. It can't just be one direction. And then you've got to make sure that on a regular basis, and one of the things we teach at Pro for Contractors is to make sure you have regular reviews, minimum every 3 months. Having a regular cadence on a weekly basis, whether that's at a Monday morning meeting or a Friday reflection or something like that, just to give an opportunity for the guys to be able to reach out to you to catch things quickly. And that's one of the biggest things. Nick, it cost you big time. It could have cost you customers. It could have cost you A players. It could have cost you a lot, right? It cost you profits and control and all those things. So you want to catch these things as soon as possible, because I'm telling you, the longer that you hang on to it, it will spread like a freaking disease.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So, good on you, man, for taking that step to get rid of the guy and to create, to have this vision. I think that's one of the things that let's touch on in today's call is our mindset and our belief system of how we want our culture to be in our business is so indicative of what it is that we're willing to do to create that culture. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah, big time.
Right? If you're a listener and you're like, no, man, this is a dictatorship type of environment. I'm the fucking boss. And management is the next level of authority, and it goes from top down, and that's it. Everybody else is workers. I'm going to tell you, that's going to backfire like crazy, okay? Especially in a labor shortage market. Okay.
I was just going to say, I was going to chime in on that. That's the reason why no one wants to work anymore, right? That's that old school mentality of, I'm the boss. You're lucky to be working for me. I got more guys behind that'll take your place if you don't want to be here. That's gone. Doesn't matter if you like it or not. That doesn't work anymore. That's why people can't find anyone. No, they're just not taking that shit anymore. They're done with it. Right. So us as owners and, running these companies, our mindset needs to change we need to sell it. We need to make it an environment that they want to be in. If you want the talent, that's how it's got to work. Right. So, yeah.
It's funny. The fact that you brought it up and used the language that you're using and I'm going to tell you this, whenever, we got teams of coaches and all the rest of that. And one of the things that the coaches have been trained on is catching the language that the champion CEOs are using or they're not using. And you're using the right language. I mean, just for you to say, hey, here's the reality. The reason that they're not is because they're not willing to put up that bullshit anymore. If you're listening in on this and this isn't connecting with you, I'm going to tell you, you probably are dealing with, okay, if you're the old mindset, I'm going to tell you, and all the listeners, this will categorize you, okay? You can't retain anybody. Okay, that's one. The ones that you do retain are freaking C and D players, and they're not performing at the level that you want them to, and they don't want to be measured. Okay, because they know that they're not performers. And as far as attracting people, you constantly use this language. There's nobody out there. Nobody wants to work for me. It's not necessarily nobody wants to work for you, and there's nobody out there. There is a shortage. But there is a huge amount of people that are contractors, like employees working for a contractor, that are not happy because there is still so much old school mentality, and they're willing to jump ship. Like, I look at, have you hired anybody in the last year?
Me? Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's just test this. And I haven't talked about this ever. No. Okay. So this could backfire on me. So let's see what fucking happens. Right. I love it. Okay. So were these people, let me take a guess. Okay. It'll be my crystal ball. I have a funny suspicion that they were probably working for somebody.
Yep. 100%.
Interesting. Okay. I have a funny suspicion, and don't bullshit me. Okay. I have a funny suspicion that one of the reasons or some of the reasons that they came to work for you was because the environment that they were in before was not a good environment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
What did that environment look like? Do you remember them telling you what it was that they weren't getting that they wanted to get?
Well, I mean, the one guy that we just brought on, our lead carpenter, he was doing shift work. He was working up north on big projects, and he got to a point where he's tired of it. He's tired of the hard work and the long shifts and in and out of town, coming back, all that kind of stuff. And, he worked a bit on the side back in Alberta. He did a little bit of doing kind of what we do, remodels and finishing and things like that.
Not a great lifestyle, right?
He said, I want to get back to that. I miss that kind of stuff. And I miss working with people that don't care, because that was the thing. He's being a carpenter up north. He's saying people that don't care, the next guy will fix it, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Right. And yeah. So I had for our lead carpenter positions, that was the majority of people that I was getting were people that were working big industrial commercial stuff that were saying, we're done with it. We want to come work for a small little company that's focused on doing good work, kind of thing.
Right. Okay.
Apprentices go to that side of it. Apprentices, I got a huge number of people that were still in a situation where they're like, yeah, I want to do my apprenticeship, but my current company won't let me go to school. They're not tracking my hours towards my apprenticeship to get my ticket. So I put a job out there once I heard that, went on Canva and doodled around with it saying, crush your apprenticeship, work for a company that wants to support your career. I got a slew of people saying that sounds great because I'm getting no support to further myself.
So listen, here's the thing, guys, I called it. Okay. I called a couple of the things. Okay. Here's the thing. They want it to be more about them than making it about you. I can't stress that enough. If you create an environment that's more about them, or at least supports them a lot more than where they're being supported, they're going to be willing to come to work for you. Okay. So I want to give you a couple little tips. Okay. Since you talked about, and this is one of the things we teach you guys on is how to upgrade your ads. The importance of, if you don't understand this stuff, okay, if you don't understand the pain points that we just covered off, you're not going to be able to create an environment where people want to stay. If you don't understand this, and don't get the I call it the secret psychology. You don't get the secret psychology behind an apprentice. Let's just use the apprentice, because you brought it up. Perfect example. How the fuck are you going to put an ad out there that they're even going to want to read? You're not. You're going to look just like everybody else, looking for apprentices, full time. We got benefits. Maybe you're lucky if you can put that. We got benefits and it's a good environment. What the fuck? What does that mean? Versus like, let's articulate some of the stuff that you put in the ad. Like, let's go back. I want you to repeat a couple of things. What did you say again in your ad?
So the catchphrase I did, because I did most of the people I've got were through Facebook, through social, most of it.
Yep.
The top phrase wasn't "we're hiring" or looking for that. It just said "crush your apprenticeship."
Right. Okay.
Right.
So let's just pause right there. So if you want to catch people's attention, you've got to either make a statement like "crush your apprenticeship." That's going to whoa. So the apprentice is thinking, hey, I want to crush my apprenticeship, right? So again, Nick is using a language that resonates with the reader, being the apprentice, okay? The other strategy, and you probably heard this before, is to change that, Nick, to upgrade that, ready to upgrade it, even though it works for you, okay? Yeah. Is if you just turn that statement into a question. Do you want to crush your apprenticeship?
There you go, yeah.
Now, why would a question potentially be stronger, even though your statement was awesome? Why would it be stronger than just a statement?
Well, that's going to help kind of pre-qualify, help filter out a bit more, right?
Totally. And it's going to, if a question forces somebody to do something, they want to answer the question, right? So it gets them to think, okay? So if you don't get right out of the gate, if you're struggling in attracting people, I don't care if it's a fucking lead carpenter, I don't care if it's a PM, it's a fucking laborer, apprentice, you've got to take each one of those as individuals and figure out what the secret psychology is behind them. What drives them? What do they want? What are they not getting? What is the environment that they're in right now that is toxic? And use those key words and those key statements. Okay. And then in your ad, maybe you could just, I don't expect you to remember, totally here, but in the ad, what was some of the things that you put in the ad once they started reading?
Yes, like for the apprenticeship one, it was pretty basic. It was pretty much, if you want to work for a company that is going to support your career and your apprenticeship and set you up to make sure that you can dominate your apprenticeship, we might be the right fit for you.
Right.
And I think a lot of it I say in the bottom, I do have that question saying, like if you want to work for a company, or are you, if you want to be the guy that's going to dominate your apprenticeship, we're the right kind of guy.
I love it. I love it.
That kind of thing, right? And then for our lead carpenter ones that I put out there, the big one that I was putting out there was more family oriented, right? Because lead guys, you're thinking they're going to be in their late 30s, maybe in their 40s. And that was it. A lot of these guys that were applying from up north doing all this, my thing was saying, hey, like we're paying well. You need sick time for your kids. No problem. You need time off for a crazy drop-off schedule. That's fine. I'm doing that too. Right. All these things.
You want to go play hockey on Friday mornings and whatever.
Just trying to say we're flexible. We can work with it. You want time off? Great. Just let's work through it. Make sure we can plan. Just trying to say and putting that, sick time with your family. Or the one that I think worked pretty well too is the question, the pain point was, what if you didn't have to work weekend side jobs? Boom, and that one was like a wham bam. And said,
that is gold, Jerry.
Are you tired of, and I actually saw on Instagram, I'm assuming it was another PSC member, but someone totally poached that little blurb I wrote on that one. I saw and tweaked it to theirs, but a bunch of it was the same ones. I was like, all right, I guess I'm doing something right. So
absolutely.
But yeah, that one, when I thought of that one was like a pretty good aha moment of, because in the trades, that's what everybody does. They got to do a side hustle. And, one of the phrases was, this culture of having a side job is exhausting and not sustainable. What if you didn't have to do that?
So guys, he's giving you gold. Okay. Take these. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. And then, and then this other one is, just for the sake of time, let's just nip it. Is this other one of like, I'm not getting on fucking social media. It's like, what? You're not going to get on social. What would you say to the listener regarding that, Nick? Honestly.
Oh, then you're already behind. That's it. You're done.
You're done.
Yeah. You can't do it. Like for me, like I look at it, like my whole business has been 99.9% through Facebook. Our whole company, all jobs, everything is from me doing ads on Facebook, community pages through Facebook, word of mouth through Facebook, all that. I find Instagram is more for peers. I think that shift is probably happening, but I find that's more for sharing knowledge and things like that. Whereas for clients, I find Facebook and the clientele that we are, aiming at, they're Facebook users, so. And our Facebook presence is honestly not great, so we're hooked up with the VAs with you guys now. So they're going to help us kick that up.
Right. Yeah.
Great,
so,
but,
well, here's the thing, right? Here's the reality is that we've been able to optimize and maximize, how that works. So instead of you guys doing the heavy lifting, one of the things that we offer at Profit Contractors is we, do it for you, right? Instead of you, and that way you can focus in on other things, right? So, we covered off a lot here. All right. We covered off knowing our numbers. We covered off, the importance and the mindset around building an A team and, the consequences if you don't build an A team. We talked about, ads, that there are people out there. And, you highlighted something that just reiterate is you found these people and they weren't in your backyard. These were people that were out of your area, correct?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. So
that have been out doing shift work up in Kitimat and stuff, like way north BC, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So, the opportunities are there. I think if I was to, if we start looking at the last little part of this is a bit of the future. Okay. So let's just talk a little bit about the future and where do your profits are going up. You've got targets to hit, 40, 50%. And you're doing a lot of things to go in that direction. You got a ways to go. You're still having to pay off bad debt and things that from the past, but your profits though are now paying for that, and soon they're going to pay for, positive, more cash flow and things of that nature. But what's the future look like for you? What's some of the vision that you could share with the team as far as where you want to?
Yeah, I mean, for Cavetto, like what I'm trying to build is too, like I said, with this kitchen thing is a really cool opportunity. And I like the idea of kind of what Theo's done, where his company's now branched into multiple different companies.
Yes.
So I have had this idea for a while of, a painting business, do Cavetto painting, home inspection. Anyway, so I've got these ideas for different branches of the business that can be different companies under Cavetto.
That's smart.
But the big thing now for me is this kitchen opportunity. We can lean into that. We're kind of clearing our plate of other projects right now to talk to this designer saying, we want to be your number one guy. We want to be your people. And then we can just ride that for, say a year to just really systemize. It simplifies everything for us. We can be making money. And then as those jobs, like I said, hopefully say, we also want to do this part of our house. I can say, yeah. And then I can now develop a larger scale renovation side of the business. I can have a hyper-focused kitchen crew and then a larger, we want to do an addition as well. Okay, well, let's talk to our renovation remodeling side where we've got, a team that can be developed for that kind of thing. So
good. That's awesome. Now, let me give you some coaching on that. Is that cool?
Yeah, you bet.
All right. So I think really laying these out in like having this, have you written out this plan or is this plan in your head?
No, it's written out.
Okay, cool. All right. Yeah. So the order in which you just can't stress enough, the order in which you align the dominoes is going to be super important. Okay. Yeah. So let's get this strategic alliance nailed down first and ask yourself this question. What are you going to be doing that's unique, about Cavetto that you can provide to them to make them unique?
To the kitchen company.
Yes. Yeah. What is it? And I don't want you don't need to answer it now, but this is something that I really want you to think about. If you can provide a service that is unique to Cavetto, that creates a uniqueness for them, it's fucking game over.
Yeah.
Okay. Instead of you just being a partner, okay, you want to be a true alliance, strategic alliance. Okay.
Yeah.
What you're talking about right now is more probably of a partnership. Okay. If we're going to use the word strategic alliance, we have to make it strategic. And it's not just strategic for us. It has to be strategic for them.
Yeah.
Okay. So what are some of the things that we could do to allow for that? All right. Some things that come to mind, just throw it out there, is make your system their system. So in other words, that the level of communication that you have is transferred to them and to the client so that they look like heroes, right? If you can turn them into heroes strategically, it's game over. Is this making sense?
Oh yeah. No, that's been my mindset from just being a carpenter in general, thinking about jobs.
Yes.
Is that our job as a carpenter GC is to make sure we set everything up so all our subs can do their job and look like rock stars.
Right.
Right. If they look like rock stars, we look like rock stars. So no, I totally get that.
So you could create specific features, things of that nature. As an example, I'm just throwing some shit out there. Okay. Example could be, specialized molding that you go out, you get the jigs for, right? And I know that they do some of that here in Ottawa. I know, there's some places that offer that, but nobody fucking takes these people up on it, where you go and get the mold done. Right. And the only people that, get access to this style of trim is you. And in this case, the strategic alliance. So now you could see with something like that, what would be the benefit to them?
Yeah. Well, they get some exclusivity, right? They got something they can sell.
Look,
right?
Exactly. Look at how fucking yes. So in our designs, we have these different molds. These are specialty molds. We're the only ones that have access to them. They'd be like, what? Yes, and it does this. Blah 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 blah. Okay, I want my house to look unique, or what have you. Now it's win-win-win, right?
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, sounds great. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So that's one thing. Okay. The other, let's come back to the dominoes. Okay. So when you want to build up pillars of profitability, I call them. Okay. And everybody listening in, this is actually what a coaching session would be like, right, Nick?
Yeah.
Okay. We're highlighting things where there's opportunity, and we're coming up with tactics instead of like, hey, Nick, you should come up with something strategic. Well, what the fuck's that mean? Like you're not giving me where's the actual tangible ideas here, right? So when you line up these different dominoes, okay, you want to pick your domino very similar to, remember how we had training on rating and filtering, your A player clients, B player, C player, D player, right? And there's a rating matrix, not just based upon profitability, but also complexity and referrals and, ease to work with, and all these different 9 things. You want to create a rating system.
Yeah.
Okay. Specific to a couple of things. One, ease of implementation and management.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So example, taking on painting versus taking on something else. I'm not saying that painting is the right one, but I'm just saying that's a lot less complicated, right?
Yeah.
And a lot easier for you to manage. And yet it adds to your pillars of profitability and offering. Correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
So we want to put them in order of ease, okay, of profitability, okay, and scalability from a people person perspective. Okay. Yeah. Make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay? If you don't get those in the right order, it's not disaster, but it's going to be incredibly painful. Okay. It'll be like if you pick the one that was a little more complicated and you put it first, it's going to slow you down. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So is there one that comes to mind? What would be the first additional pillar of profitability that comes to mind?
I think right now it would be, I think the first thing would be, like you said, getting ourselves hyper-focused in these kitchens.
Yes.
And then having that remodel, kind of building back up that remodeling side, just because we know it, the systems are going to be the same, everything like that.
Reusability.
Yeah. Right. And the whole idea is get Cavetto Carpentry to the spot, systemized, everything's dialed in and running smooth.
Yep.
And then just take that and go plop to another thing, right?
Totally.
So, but I think, right now it's, get ourselves dialed in, systemized with the kitchens and with that alliance for sure. And then say, okay, now we can start growing our team to bring on the remodeling and other carpentry stuff.
Get one systemized at a time. At a time. So my last little tip, when you go to move that next pillar of profitability, okay, you maybe have already thought of this, but I will stress the fucking shit out of this. You have got to be able to track its financials completely separate.
Yeah.
Completely separate. That means a separate profit and loss statement. Okay. So anybody listening in, okay, you might be like, what the fuck are you talking about, Andrew? I'm going to tell you right now. If you've got 4 or 5 different offerings right now, and I know this might be painful to hear, but it's no bullshit podcast. You got 4 or 5 different services and they're all in one profit and loss statement. Okay.
Can't track it. You don't know what's happening.
Can't track it. And if I go to you, which one's the most profitable? Which one's the least profitable? Are you hitting your targets regarding your budgets and stuff? You'd just be looking at me like, well, we're increasing our sales. Well, we're increasing our profits. And I'm like, no, I'm talking about, I want to know exactly how profitable that one is and that one and that one. Okay. So there's a way to do it. You pick the one that's least complicated and then you start breaking it down. But anyway, so that's some coaching for you, Nick, my man. Okay. So as far as moving forward, create a uniqueness for that strategic alliance and make sure that you get your your additional profits or pillars of profit in the right order. And I love that you're looking at reusing the systems that you've already got. What would be the last piece of advice that you'd give somebody listening into this? If they're like struggling right now, they're fucking probably, most people listening in are crazy busy. They got too much work. They don't have enough manpower. They're running around from job to job. What would you tell
them? I'd say the big thing is, at any point you're starting to feel overwhelmed, that's a sign that you need to be bringing someone in to help you out, right? You need to be either looking, can I hire someone to take that off my plate? Whatever I keep missing, I can never get to that. I don't want to do that. So you never do it, right? You just procrastinate on something. You got to start thinking about, okay, well, how can I mitigate that? How can I bring someone in that can maybe help with that? And start planning for it. That's my big thing here and with PFC, right? Is that mindset shift from I'm not a carpenter anymore. I'm a business owner now, right? And that means
CEO, baby.
People, right? Exactly, a CEO. So that's my big thing is that if you need to bring in help and you need people that are better than you. That's the big one, right? Wow. You can be great at what you do, right? But like I know myself as a carpenter, pretty damn good. But my guy Jason, my PM right now, he can run circles around me. He's worked on crazy houses. And he's incredibly good at being organized and seeing the whole project and lining everything up. And I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what I need. My job is that I'm really good at is sales. I'm really good at dealing with the client and the vision of the company and how we want to do all that stuff. That's where I'm, settling into. And pretty much I bring it in, I pass it to Jason.
Very different place than where you were at when you first started here.
Oh man. Very different. Yeah.
Well, I'm saying that I'm being like really, I'm proud of you, man, for you getting to, because everybody wants you. I want them to understand that number one, you're not alone. Number two, you can fucking do this. And there is a pathway. Okay. Whether it's through Profit Contractors or somebody else or whatever. Okay. Don't let anybody tell you if you're sitting down having breakfast with all your other buddy contractors, like this is just the fucking way it is. It is not.
No,
it's not.
No. Yeah. Every company's different. Every company's overhead, how they structure it, all that stuff is different, so you can't compare it all. You just got to know your numbers and own it. That's all it is. Have your goals. And, we turn tons of work away from qualifying people. Right?
Every business is different, but the principles are the same.
Yep.
Principles are the same. Okay. Yep. So I guess my last thing, piggybacking off of, what you said here is I think that deep down inside, going way back when I had my contracting business, I knew that I needed help. And I took way too long to raise my hand to get the help. And it cost me dearly. It almost cost me my business and my marriage and all the rest of that kind of stuff. So with that being said, if your deep down is telling you that you need some help, you got to get some help. Okay. Yeah. Don't try to figure this shit out all by yourself. It's not, it's not fair to yourself. It's not fair to your team, not fair to your family. Okay. So get the help you need, based upon what you're saying, Nick. And it's okay. It doesn't make you weaker. It makes you're stronger for it.
Well, you think about it, right? Every other business out there, large business, everything, they've all gone to school. They got MBAs. They've been trained on how to run a business and all that stuff, right? Whereas contractors we're not, right? So to expect that you can then, I'm going to business that's going to be huge and great without any of that knowledge and training, that doesn't work, right? So you need to reach out. You need to learn this stuff. You need to change your mindset to be a business owner. You need to take a course. You need to join a coaching program.
Yeah.
You need to read a ton of books. Like, you got to know this stuff, because if you don't, it's insane how fast it can be lost. That's what really hurt me, was that it was, like I said, it felt like I blinked and all of a sudden it was like, oh my God, I'm in a lot of trouble. I got no money, we're in debt, and I had all these ideas. I knew all these things I needed to know, but not having a structure of how to implement and what to do, what to prioritize.
Yep.
And you get that from education, whatever education that will help you, whatever it's going to be, but you need to educate yourself. You can't just wing it. It doesn't work. If you want to scale and survive and have something sustainable, a proper business, you need knowledge. That's it.
Yeah. And don't try to get the knowledge. This is my final words, and then we'll wrap this baby up. One of the slowest ways to get the knowledge. Okay. So if you're at the stage of listening to this podcast, it's not over yet. It's going to be over in a couple of minutes. So save yourself a couple of minutes. If you don't think the knowledge is one of the key pathways, then probably turn this baby off. But when it comes to knowledge, one of the hardest ways of getting knowledge is just through ourselves. In other words, learning the hard way. Okay. And in a lot of cases, you never learn it. Okay. One of the fastest ways, I say, it did it for you. You leapfrog decades to days and months and weeks. Right. Yeah. So instead of it taking you decades, it took you months and weeks, and in some cases a day to learn something from somebody else that had already figured it out. Yeah. So don't try to figure the shit out all by yourself. Come back to my main point that I'm making. It's the hard fucking way. It's a hard way, not just for you. It's a hard way for every single person around you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, listen, great job, my man. That was awesome. Lots of insights and tactics. Pause the podcast for those listeners. If there's a specific strategy and you're like, man, I need to write that down. I need to, do something about it. Pick one thing. Don't pick the 4 or 5 things we covered off today. Pick one thing, pause it, write it down, create a plan, do something about it, get progress by it, and then move on to the next thing. Don't allow yourself to get overwhelmed with this kind of stuff. It's not needed. And I will see you guys on another No Bullshit podcast for contractors. I'm Andrew Houston. This is Nick Black, and we are going to see. Well, I'll be seeing you guys later on. Nick, hopefully we'll have you back again if you're up for it, and the progress that you made, in the next little while, and we'll go from there, man.
Sounds good.
Catch you, man. Ciao.
Hey, rock stars, thank you for watching the No Bullshit podcast for contractors. If you enjoyed this episode, hit the subscribe button. And if you're serious about growing and need help, click on the link below. Myself and my team would love to help and give you the necessary tools so you can take your contracting business to the next level. And remember, dominate, delegate, and deliver.